Hello, I'm Mr. Smith from the Empire team, here with your notes about natural selection, the nature of science, notes number one. Make sure you have this sheet with you to be able to fill in the blanks as we go along. If you have any questions, reach out to your science teacher to get the help that you need. So, what is science? We've talked about this before at the beginning of the year, and we're going to come back to it in order to understand this theory of evolution and some of the other processes that we have in natural selection. So, science is a particular way of understanding the natural world. So that we can understand everything that's going on within nature, we take and put it to tests and evaluations to see what's happening. It connects the past with the present. So, what happened in the past may be happening now. Similar observations can occur. And it uses the senses to gather information about the universe, not just here on Earth, but in the sky and beyond as well. So, how does science work? Well, science relies on evidence from the natural world. Okay, so this evidence, we actually look at what we have to prove that something is correct. The evidence is interpreted through logic. This is called an inference, and we've talked about this at the beginning of the years, inferences versus truth. And creativity is essential for scientific reasoning. We have to be creative in our thinking. We have to think outside the box sometimes to get to the answers that we're looking for. So, what are some observations versus inferences? We're going to take a look in the middle of your paper where it talks about observations versus inferences. And you're going to fill in 2 observations and 1 inferences about this picture that's going to come up. All right. So, picture number 1 shows a couple of different sets of footprints. Pause the video now and write down what observations and inferences you have. All right, now we're back. Okay. Now that we have more evidence, let's list 2 new observations. So we're going to extend our picture. Okay. So now we got the second part of the picture in here. So from the line up is what you're looking at for this new observations and inferences. Again, pause the video and write down your observations and inferences. All right, welcome back. We're going to take a look one more time, okay, at our evidence that lists 2 new observations and 2 new inferences, okay? Again, from the line up, what do we notice? What has happened? Okay? And there's lots of different observations that you can make and inferences that you can make. Remember, those are different. Observations are what you can see. Inferences are what you think happened, what may have occurred. All right, so let's take a look at the characteristics of science still. Conclusions are reliable through tentative. So we can conclude that something happens during a situation, but we have to prove that it happens over and over again to make it an actual conclusion that we have. We change our ideas with new evidence that we obtain. Science is not democratic. It doesn't matter what side we're on. It's what the truth tells us and what the experiment tells us. And we've looked at that many, many times throughout the course of the year. That what does the data tell us? It doesn't matter what we think should have happened or could have happened. What does the data tell us about this experiment? Ideas are accepted or rejected based on evidence. So we have to have that proof of something happening. Science is non-dogmatic, meaning that it is not based on faith or belief. It's whatever we want to happen. Science cannot make moral decisions. Science exists in a cultural context. Until Galileo, people accepted the Earth as the center of the universe. Galileo used his telescope to prove that things weren't exactly moving around us, but moving around other bodies. Scientists must avoid bias. we can't take our personal beliefs and put it in there. If we want to prove something happens, we have to have the experiment that proves that it actually occurred. Just because we believe that it should go one way or another does not mean that's exactly what we get. Falling in love with one's own hypothesis. Okay. Uh, Sometimes we prove it and it works out, but sometimes we don't. And then we have to change our hypothesis. We can't be drawn in by preconceptions, those ideas that we had beforehand. This has to happen. It can only be this way. Scientist is not Science is not always a direct ascent toward the truth. Sometimes we have to look at other ways around and reevaluate what we're looking at. Science corrects itself with as more evidence is gathered. What is a theory? Well, theories are explanations that make sense of some aspect of nature. They're based on evidence. What allows scientists to make valid predictions about what's going to happen with everything. They have been tested many, many times. And it's subject to peer review and replication, meaning that we can prove that something happens. We hand it off to some of our science friends or other scientists in the community and allow them to conduct the same research and provide the same explanation. Some examples are the cell theory, the theory of gravity, and evolutionary theory. Evolutionary theory is what we're getting ready to go into. Theory of gravity, the fact that we know that the earth holds us down. Cell theory, we talked about that, how cells divide and the process that makes that happen. So what else do we know? The theory of evolution. The theory of evolution is evidence-based. It's a well-tested explanation. It explains how the history of life proceeded on Earth. And it explains how living things have changed over time. A theory is not a guess or a hunch. We have actual proof that something has happened, something has changed, something has gotten better, or maybe worse, depending on it. Isn't theory just an evolution? You're going to take a look at a short YouTube video now and explain and fill in some answers on your note sheet about the theory of evolution. Again, if you have any questions about anything, reach out to your science teacher. Have a great day. See you soon.